Now sign the minutes.
Yep.
And apologies, we've got at least 2 or 3.
I've had official apologies from Councillor Eddie Reeves. I've not personally heard from any others.
Oh, I've had one from Alan Charter. So we'll log that. Okay. No interest, of course. No, we agree. Right. We were saying before you came that the annual audit letter used to be a fascinatingly large and interesting and important document. Now it's a summary, really, of what has been happening in the course of the year. So none of it should be a surprise to anyone at all. In essence, it really, I mean, this is dated October. And it could really come with, if you like, the September reports. In fact, it's really summarising what happened before. I'm just thinking in the future. That's all. It's possible that we could combine it with receipt of the September report.
It's possible. It depends on the timing of the committee that approves the accounts in September.
Yes.
Because this year the accounts were approved on the 30th of September.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So this report follows that.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Do speak to them when you wish.
Thank you. Chair, you're quite right. It is a summary document, and it follows on from our principal report, which is our annual governance report, which we delivered to this committee in September. At that time, we reported that we were likely to give an unqualified opinion on your accounts, that we were likely to give an unqualified value for money conclusion. This report confirms that we did indeed give those unqualified opinion reports on your accounts in the FO conclusion. We just summarise here the fact that in the financial statements audit, issues were addressed appropriately by officers. We just repeat some matters of presentation where we agreed amendments with officers in terms of the presentation of the accounts. We referred to 2 recommendations. Those were to do with the accuracy of business rates information and recommendation to improve the quality of working papers. So neither recommendation is significant or fundamental from the point of view of members in our view. On page 3, we confirm that we issued the certificate for the audit, closing the audit for 2013-14 on 30th September. And we also confirm on page 3 that the fee of £66,445 was £900 in excess of the planned fee for the year. And the reason for that is because we had to do additional work to gain assurance about business rates, and that's in common with all councils because we're no longer required to certify a grant claim or return on business rates. So whereas we previously used to get assurance from that source, we now have to carry out additional audit work. So although there was an additional fee for the audit, the plus side is that there was no fee for certification of that business rates return. As I said, this is a summary document. The reason it is actually presented to you is because it is one of the key documents from the Audit Commission's point of view. It's the one document that they publish on their website in respect to this authority, and indeed a similar document for every authority. And they also expect you to publish it on your website and make it available to the public outside the normal papers that are available through the minutes.
Yes. Yes, I see. Yes, and you're quite right on the site as we had this particular year, it had to come to this committee, not to come to the September one. Right, any questions?
No, that's right.
Paul?
It's quite self-explanatory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brief summary.
Absolutely. Just remind us, is the fee set, is it negotiated?
The fee is set by the Audit Commission
Mhm.
for the 5-year contract that was awarded to KPMG. We did ask for a variation to the
Based
fee.
on the size of councils?
Based on, yes, the size of council, because historically that's how the fee was calculated by the Audit Commission. They had a formula based on those.
So this is a Daventry specific audit
Yes, it
fee
is,
based
yes.
on our financial size, population, a mixture of everything?
Gross revenue expenditure.
Gross revenue expenditure.
We did ask for a variation to the fee to take into account two factors. One was the fact that in 2014 we produced group accounts, which we didn't do previously, and also there's the consolidation of the Daventry Estate Company transactions where the properties were transferred to the subsidiary for a long-term lease.
So, you know, the base fee is likely to be pretty similar for the full year on the contract. Yeah. And this is year 2, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Two, yes.
Yeah.
Only two
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll presumably just ask to note and receive the letter. Thank you very much.
Got one question on this.
Yes.
Only, it says 3 cases.
Next item on the agenda.
Yeah, sorry, don't we all letter? Right, item 5, certification of grants and returns. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We are required to certify a number of claims returned by the Audit Commission under their grants regime each year. The number of claims has fallen steadily over the last few years, such that the only one claim that we audited or certified in 2013-14 was housing benefits. So whereas in the past we produced a report setting out the work we've done on various individual grant claims, what the findings are, what the fees are for each one, this year we've taken the view that to simplify matters we've presented our findings by way of a letter this year. So what we've said is in terms of the housing benefits work we've done, we've identified a small number of errors on individual cases, and that led us to doing additional work that's in accordance with the approach mandated by the Audit Commission in terms of how we go about the work of the housing benefits claim. We also issued a qualification letter to the Department for Work and Pensions, again mandated by the Commission. We have to report to them where we can't agree an amendment to the claim. And this is in common with most authorities. The vast majority of authorities receive qualification letters due to the complicated nature of housing benefits. And finally, on the second page of the letter, we're confirming that our fee was in accordance with the fee. Again, this is a fee set by the Audit Commission, and we've not asked for any variation to that fee for 2013-14. And it is much lower than previous year because we no longer do any work on council tax cases.
Right, okay.
I just wanted to get an idea of the scale, because I know 3 cases is significant, let's get that word out. But how many did you test in total? So it was 3 of...
My figure is 69.
So
The number of errors we found here is, in my experience, on the low side. in
yeah,
terms
3
of
of 69
proportion.
is... Yeah, that's all.
And Scott, that's what you'd expect.
Sorry?
3 out of 369 is good.
Yeah. I mean, I think you may have, if you may have a threshold on you, if it went over, you'd have to ask us to provide additional work.
It depends on where we find errors, what the nature of the error is.
And how material it is.
Well, materiality doesn't come into it, but because of the mandated approach.
Yeah.
If we find an error, we have to address it either by doing initial testing and reporting to the department, or by agreeing an amendment to the claim effectiveness.
Thank you.
Just one thing to add on that. I thought what was good about it is it's not just the fact that 3 were found, it's the fact that also you found 2 cases where benefit was underpaid.
Mm.
So it shows a real reflection of the whole robustness of the system.
Yes, the downside for you is if you underpay subsidy, sorry, if you underpay benefit, then you also underclaim subsidy, but because you haven't paid the benefit,
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
not taxed. So it's not classed as an error.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Chair, if I can just make a comment. As already mentioned, that part of KPMG's role is to report to DWP, and that they've done. What we've said to DWP is that we want to do some further testing ourselves, and are working through some, I think, just short of 300 cases. We've gone through 70 so far, and have not found any other errors. But we'll need to have discussions with DWP about the level of adjustment they wish to make. The signs are encouraging, and I think the sign of our robustness that we're going through these cases, case by case.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, again, we receive a note of the letter. Thank you very much. Welcome to stay, of course, as always. Scott, certification, internal audit progress report, page 19.
The report before the committee serves 2 main purposes. Firstly, to report progress on the audit plan and any impacts on its delivery during the year. And secondly, to report any matters of interest to this committee from the audit work undertaken to the end of December. To also provide an update on the issues reported in the annual audit review. In respect of the audit plan, we've made relatively good progress has been made during the year, despite 1 or 2 material impacts on resources. Significantly, this has involved yet again investigative work undertaken on behalf of management under the Anti-Fraud, Bribery and Corruption Response Plan. To date, this work has equated to roughly 14 to 15% of the resources set aside for the original audit plan. And although these cases are now mostly complete, there are, however, 1 or 2 matters still being resolved. The knock-on effects being, to date, that 4 audits have been postponed to the next financial year, as listed in paragraph 4.7. As I've said in the past, it's inherently difficult to predict the resources required for investigation work. However, things have moved on, and I'm pleased to report to the committee that we have recently appointed to a new post within the team, a corporate fraud officer who starts in March. Not only will this officer pick up the reactive work, such as the investigations, but they will also enhance the proactive side of things for the council by firstly developing a fraud strategy on management's behalf. This is likely to come to this committee in June. The upshot being, for us, and the council, is that the council will develop and enhance its counter-fraud arrangements, and the audit team receives some much-needed support to provide greater resilience to the service in future. It is also of note, in terms of impacts on resources, that the senior internal auditor post is becoming vacant in March, and recruitment for that replacement is currently taking place to reduce any vacant post impact. Moving on to the audit work undertaken during the year, most members will now be familiar with the table on page 22. This is the annual table that we produce for both this internal audit progress report and the annual audit review. As you can see from the table, this illustrates both the assurance opinions to be given to completed audits over the last 4 years, summarised as a ratio, and also an indication of management's response in implementing audit recommendations. I am more than pleased to report to members that the current position is very favourable, particularly the percentage of high priority recommendations implemented, which has passed the target set by this committee in 2010 for the very first time. And in fact, as you can see, it currently stands at 100%. In respect of the completed audit work, You will notice that no minimal assurance opinions have been issued to date, although one audit is pending in respect of building control income and is currently receiving management's attention. The outcome of this audit will be included in my annual audit review, which will come to this committee in June. During the year, only one audit of corporate significance has been reported to senior management thus far in respect of Council's ICT strategy. A summary of our findings for that are on paragraph 4.17. Since the audit was issued back in October, a new ICT strategy has been approved by Council and a number of audit recommendations have already been implemented. This has largely been assisted by the IT steering group that was set up, of which Internal Audit is a member. This allows us to closely monitor the progress being made and also to provide advice as necessary. Linked very closely to the ICT strategy, we've previously done some work on the IT project governance and project management. You may remember that this was reported in the annual audit review. Again, satisfactory progress is being made as part of the ongoing development of the steering group and use of the Council's project management methodology. Further updates on both of these areas will be provided to members later in the year. So, overall, the report paints a very good picture. If management continue to exert the same effort and responsiveness to issues raised, then I'm sure the year-end position will be very much the same. And I don't have anything more to add.
Yes, certainly what strikes me here are the figures, the two bottom columns, or the two bottom horizontal columns in the table. 411, 59% up to 100, 63% up to 81. And that, again, it's a compliment to internal audit. It's a compliment primarily to management for the relationship between management and internal audit, because management is not going to achieve these figures without a good mutual respect relationship with the IA.
Very much so.
And that is tremendously encouraging. The only other thing that jumps out is your staffing issue. The 14 audit days that you reported being lost at 4.5, of course, it is just in 1 month, actually, isn't it?
14 to 15%.
No, the audit days lost as a result of the resignation.
Oh yes.
You're only taking into account March.
Yes, in effect, yes.
Really, so
yes.
you're not looking forward at the moment. You're not in a position to project
No.
how many days are going to be lost next year.
No, and in terms of that, Chair, I'm also looking at other options, potentially looking to a number of options. One of those being one of the officers a part-time auditor. He may work at full-time for a short period of time to offset some of that. I'm not looking to bring in any agency work on that, but also at the same time we will have our new corporate fraud officer start, and I'll be able to use them. Yes, we're jumping in at the deep end a little bit because we want to get them working on proactive corporate fraud arrangements, but they are there also to support the audit plan if needed.
Yeah.
If I may, Chair, just add something on. I believe when we spoke before, when you mentioned this, but we were 2 staff down before, weren't you, when you last brought this up? Obviously, you're recruiting 2 full-time staff, is that right?
No, we were up to full complement.
So full complement,
we just
right.
had a significant impact again through diversion of resources to fraud investigations.
Okay. Right. So now with the... So
there was an element, sorry,
yes.
thank you. There was an element also of sickness absence as well,
Right. Okay.
which is in effect equivalent to having a vacant post.
But now with the new member of the team brought on board, that would give you the full complement you need
Yes.
to move forward.
Yes.
That's critical, isn't it?
It is critical,
I think
yes.
that saves any, it gets you where you need to be in terms of delivering what needs to happen.
Chair as well, members may also recall just when we discussed audit resources last, that there was another element that I'm looking to introduce at some point in the future. It's been slightly delayed, and that's been around enhancing the IT audit resources also. Due to the diversion of resources and my time and efforts, that's been slightly delayed, but that again will add and provide further resilience to the audit plan as well.
Yeah, I want to add something on the back of that, if I may, which is simply that one of the things that I've encountered in my time is when things are running really well, the tendency, and I don't think that's the case here, but the tendency is often to, when you're doing so well, is to not think about the future needs and tend to think everything's great. I wonder if there's any plan in place to actually maybe over the budget on the start, give you a little extra now for the future ahead. And I wonder if that's a possibility rather than waiting for maybe things to change in the future and you need more.
I think, the corporate fraud officer is a new post to the authority.
Right.
That in itself is enhancing, certainly as I'm able to integrate that post within my team, will enhance the audit approach, because there are elements of fraud that we do already in our audit plan. So that will free up some audit resource in its own right.
Right, okay.
And similarly, with the impact that we have on, say, a vacant post, I won't necessarily have that with the IT audit resource that I can get in, that we contracted in. That's something that's almost a given that will come to us. Yes, it may cost a little bit more, but it's specialist advice that's coming in, and it's another area that we know that's been hit over the last 2 or 3 years because of the impact on our resources. So again, that provides us with an area, a specialist area of audit that we know we're going to be able to deliver in future as well.
Right, thank you.
Chair, could I just have a couple of comments? One that, I really champion getting that additional resource, and you just get your things in place and you get this resignation. So I hope we're going to go out quickly.
It's out already, yeah. You'll see it on
So
our
that there's no
website.
idea of leaving it vacant or anything like that. We've gone quickly so that we can cash out. And then the only other thing is touching on what my colleague said over there is that, I've been here sitting in this committee for 3 years now, and each time we come to the report and we're reporting that resources are diverted away from the original plan. So does that indicate still that there really isn't enough resources because you keep being diverted away from your plan?
I think we need to, the new post is only going to, the new corporate fraud post is only going to be starting from March. We need that to induct that person in.
Oh, right.
The IT audit resource will come at a later date. It's just that we've had another hit of that impact on our resources before we've got those
I
arrangements
see.
in
So
place.
with the new post, then hopefully next year
Exactly.
I will not see the sentence.
No, that's that's the plan. That's the plan.
Resources diverted away and put
No.
behind.
And the other
Got
thing
the additional.
the other thing I mentioned in here, although it's a diversion of away of our audit resource to do fraud investigative work, because we have the skills to do that, we don't just do the investigation. We will also look at the organisational learning points that come from that. So almost there's an area, if anybody's been able to take advantage of an area through fraud, bribery or corruption, we're able to also look at that area and then provide recommendations to management on firming those internal controls up as well. So it has a bit of a double-edged sword to that. So it's not all lost.
Kelly?
Yeah, I think just to sort of add to what Scott's saying there, you're right to identify the audit resource pulled into the fraud investigations. I think it's fair to say we've had a couple of exceptional cases to deal with over the past couple of years. So we wouldn't expect to see those sorts of cases every year. But as Scott has explained, the fraud officer will carry the bulk of any work on fraud investigation, corporate fraud investigation, which will allow auditors to focus on their core duties in terms of the audit. It gives us some greater resilience as well. So we certainly believe at this stage that we have capacity to deal with the audit plan and the corporate fraud work.
Right, done? Yeah, well, I will find some way, speak to the chairman of the council, to mention this at the next council meeting. And I don't want to play around with the resolution and make it a recommendation instead, keep it as a resolution, but I'll certainly make sure that council, all members are aware of the contents of this report, which is jolly encouraging. And as I said, it's mostly a testament, I think, to the sort of approach of Scott, I think.
And management, I'm sure.
People to your left are nodding, we're nodding vociferously earlier about that.
No, but I'm sure management would appreciate the comments made at council.
Yeah. Good. Right, so we can resolve that we acknowledge all the planned progress and we endorse the response to those experts, etc. Yep, thank you. Yep, thank you very much. REPA. Who was talking about REPA?
That'll be me, Chairman. The purpose of this report is to bring committee up to date with the council's position in terms of REPA, our surveillance procedures and policies, and to provide some information feedback from an inspection by the Surveillance Commissioner's Office, which happened in September. I think just generally in terms of REPA and what it's about, the regulation of Investigatory Powers Act provides the council with powers to carry out covert and overt surveillance if required. In recent years, we have not had need to resort to covert surveillance, and whilst our activity has been minimal, if any at all, we still are required to have proper procedures, policy in place, and to have staff trained in case we need to use that. And the Surveillance Commissioner carries out a 3 or 4 yearly inspection on local authorities to make sure they've got the appropriate policies, procedures in place, and also to run his eyes over any use of the powers. So that's the context to the inspector's visit. As I say, he came in September. We had no surveillance activity to report, but he did review our policies and procedures and found those to be in good order. I think his words are excellent policies and procedures. He also commented on our knowledgeable staff, and he issued a single recommendation in respect of our surveillance policy. I think it is fair to say that the recommendation was really at our prompting. We were aware of a reference to the use of social media as a surveillance tool, which had come from the Surveillance Commissioner's annual report, and we really wanted to use the opportunity of the inspector's time here to talk to him about that and see how that might impact on what we do and our policies. So the recommendation is around including something within our policies and procedures to cover the potential use of social media. Not to say that we have any problems or any issues around that. So essentially the policy and procedure are before you for information, and those the actual changes are highlighted or greyed in the documents there, and they refer specifically to the use of potential use of social media.
Yes, so if I say I'm a friend of yours on Facebook, that could then develop into government surveillance?
It could do. A sort of a rule of thumb approach, if information is out there in the public domain, we may come across that as part of our daily activities.
So it's not covert surveillance?
That's not covert, that's overt surveillance. If we were wanting to covertly investigate, then we might be inclined to befriend the individual through Facebook or social media, and that clearly would require a REPA authorisation. We have no intention to actually do that, and as I say, we use social media to a limited degree, and any information that throws up, we would seek to corroborate from other sources, other sources.
Yes.
2 questions, Chair. Thank you. First question is, obviously it's every 3 to 4 years you said that you get inspected. Is that a random or is that a known thing? I mean, I presume because
it's known. My apologies because I can't remember whether it's 3 or 4.
Right. Okay. I was just looking in the paper. It says 3. I just went back to it was, and so it's a known thing. So you know they come in and specifically look at this part, and I presume because of the way it's changing, obviously it's important to have those robust
Yes.
policies in place. And when I looked at REAPA earlier and had a good look through it, at first I was a little bit like anybody would, a lot to take on board. But I noticed when I read through it, it's very fair, because it seems to me that the system is, as you quite rightly said, to do real investigative work. It's one thing to have a casual look at something, but to really go in depth. There's a clear flow chart that's followed before you can get exactly what you want from a judicial point of view to get deeper. And I thought that was very fair, and I thought that was useful. The only thing I would personally like to know, it's just something that's not in here, but it's just my own reference really, to understand what carries a custodial 6-month sentence, so that I understand what sort of people might be impacted by such a thing. Because that's the one thing it says in it, that they have to have, the crime that they're doing would have to carry a mandatory 6 months custodial sentence. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think I understand the point and the question. I don't have a definitive list of
no, I wouldn't expect it.
but what we would do in the case where we were considering covert surveillance, then we'd have some discussion with our lawyers about the likelihood of the offence.
Okay, yeah, right, thank you.
But I think fundamentally it's there to make sure it's only used in serious cases, so we wouldn't use it lightly, as time has shown. We've not used it at all in the last 3 years.
No, it's really there to investigate the very serious fraud cases.
Yes, as I recall, 6 months is the border between magistrates and Crown Court sentencing powers. So I think it's an indictable offence, one that's goes to the Crown Court, which is quite a serious matter. Right, any further points? Can we then resolve as per recommendations here, A and B?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, turning again, risk management progress.
Yes, Chairman. This you will be familiar with. We tend to bring an update paper this time of year, which coincides with the review of the strategic risk register. The risk register is attached as an appendix to the report, really as an illustration of the type of work that we do. This, I would hasten to say, as is stamped across, it is work in progress. It still has to go through an approval process, but it's there as evidence of the work that's going on. And really, your interest is around the system that we have in place to carry out our risk management, as opposed to the content of the plan itself. That will come through to strategy review and council this summer. So, in terms of the paper in front of you, I've already touched on the strategic risk register. We review this annually in light, alongside the council's corporate strategic plan and the medium-term financial plan, to ensure that we're identifying the appropriate risks and seeing that appropriate mitigations are in place. The approval process is that we'll go to SMT, it's due to go to SMT on Monday next week, then on to strategy group, and then through to council for approval. All being well, we will have an approved strategic risk register in place for 1st of April for the start of the financial year. What helps and certainly feeds this process is the work done on the service risk registers. Each service team has a service plan, and alongside their service plan sits a service risk register, which identifies and mitigates the risks against the particular elements of their service plan. The risk management group, amongst other things, receives the service risk information. These are all linked spreadsheets, and we do some filtering to identify risks that are coming through from the service risk registers. And we've the risk management group has carried out a review of the risk coming from that direction as part of the work already undertaken on the service risk register. That is complemented by risks identified through other working groups, the resources working group and the ICT steering group in particular. At each of those meetings we run through the risks which are affecting those particular areas of work. As Scott's mentioned, in terms of the work we've done on ICT strategy, that's proved very useful in identifying risks in that direction. So we're picking up risks from various sources. Those are then considered by the risk management group, and the strategic risk register has been reviewed in that light. So there's been a number of proposed changes, largely to the detail as opposed to the headline risks, and a reassessment of the risk rating. And those will be fed through to members in due course.
Yes, so this draft, as we see it at the moment, is likely to be the one that goes to CMT on next week.
Yes, this is a paper that SMT will see on
SMT, sorry. And the reds have increased slightly.
They have, yes.
Well, more than slightly, but yes.
Yeah. I think that reflects the situation the council finds itself in terms of our deliverability of our priorities as identified in the corporate plan. The world is changing. We need to reflect what's happening out there and the impacts or consequences on that as it might affect our delivery.
Yeah. Questions on it?
I think, Chair, just to add to it, I actually, when I read through it, I thought it was incredibly fair and very balanced, because it highlights, as you say, all the risks that are potential possibilities for any council to face going forward over the next few years, the sort of things that could happen. But I know from some of the other meetings that I've been involved in that there are contingency plans in place for a lot of our services should something fall over, which I know a lot of places can't say they do. So, it may have gone up, but I think it, as you quite rightly said, Tony, I think it's a reflection of the times.
I'll just echo what you said. It's gone up, but especially with where we are in the political calendar, all councils, I should think, are looking at what changes could be happening externally to the authority.
Yes, I mean, in a sense, as you get towards the end of a 5-year parliament, there are going to be more reds, actually. It's a necessary cycle, because we don't know what the incoming government is going to do next 2 months' time.
But I think, if I can just add, Chairman, alongside the reassessing upwards of some of the risks, we've also identified some further mitigations which have been captured in the plan as well. So, it's not just sort of saying, well, things are getting tougher. But we are looking at ways of mitigating the impacts of those risks.
I think I would be more concerned if I was sitting here and I hadn't got a plan
Yes.
where they've gone red. Because then I think, well, we're not doing anything.
Yes. A trivial point, but there are only 8 members of the committee. When we've got coloured plans, it is great to have them coming out in colour.
I was particularly against having it in black and white, because the committee was looking at the process rather than the...
Yes, I know.
Chairman, that was my instruction, so please tell us.
But you're absolutely right. You don't want to divert the committee into off-piste discussions. I think you can rely on me to make sure they don't do that.
Yeah, as I say, this is work in progress. I didn't want to focus on particular assessments.
All right, understood. So we may resolve that risk management plan is noted and approach endorsed. Splendid. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. That's that. We meet again in April.